Hello, and welcome to The Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and The Kosh is a podcast that spotlights people who've had an association with the Kosh or the surrounding Fox Cities area. Hey, Kosh listeners, how are we doing this morning? Once again, another great day. Glad to be here with you. Really excited about today's episode. It's going to be fire. Now, what's going on today? I'm going to be honest. Like, it's that time of winter. Like, there's pretty winter, and then there's like, it's not pretty winter. It's like that after fall, but it's definitely winter. But we don't have any snow, so it's not all bright and white. And it's just kind of like there's dead nature around us everywhere. And I don't know about you, but I don't be feeling that. So, not that I'm cheering on snow, because I am not a snow person. I'm not against snow, but I'm definitely not going to celebrate and be pro snow. I am just somewhere in there. All right, let's just be honest. If you really know me, I'm tropical, so I just really want to get back to summer. I have no doubts about it. Let's just get back to summer. I will tolerate winter. But to get back to Wisconsin summer, which is like, let's just be honest, Wisconsin summer is like one of the most fantastic things there is. Okay, well, that's my normal beginning of the episode rant that I like to do. And all I can really say is that I don't know why. I keep getting these amazing guests, and let this week be no different. And this is going to be a fantastic episode. I just think there's going to be a lot of great things we're going to be able to cover. It's an individual that's highly interactive with our communities, and helping people do great things, helping people do things they want to do. And I just think that's like, people don't celebrate those people, right? People don't celebrate the people who are helping the people do with the things that they want to do enough. But guess what we're going to do today on the Kosh? We're going to do exactly that. So, without further ado, this week's guest is Mia
Ljung.
Almost. I was close.
You're very close.
I worked on it.
Yes,
I even practiced it.
You did.
Oh, yeah.
You did.
Yeah, and still didn't nail that. How are we doing this morning?
I'm doing really good. It's good to be here, Timber. It's I've been a fan for a long time.
Awesome.
And so to be here myself is a bit intimidating, but I'm also excited. I feel very comfortable.
I promise you won't be intimidated for long.
Good.
There's a vibe.
There's a vibe.
For people that don't know, and when you get a chance to come to the Kosh's studio, which isn't a studio, it's just my daughter's old bedroom, but we make it feel comfy.
It's very comfy. And your podcast dog, Bosco, makes me feel loved.
Yes. Bosco is not paying anybody attention, because the secret to that is peanut butter in the Kong.
Is that what's making them chew?
Oh,
really
yeah.
hard on the
I put
door?
a bunch of peanut butter in there today.
There's some tips and tricks there for dog owners.
Oh, yeah. Well, the peanut butter, he will not give up on that peanut butter for at least 15 minutes.
He's a very sweet dog.
He is a sweet dog. He's a very naughty dog. That's what he is. Which is why my wife loves him.
My daughters would love him too.
Yeah, that's what's up. Okay. You ready to jump in?
Let's jump.
Mia, could you please share a little something about yourself and your connection with the Kosh and the surrounding Fox Cities area?
Sure. Well, I'm Mia. My connection to the Kosh and the Fox Valley is, and I'm glad to have this platform, Timber, because this is the big question I get asked, at least on a weekly basis, because I do have an accent, and yes, I'm not from here. So I moved. And I just want to get this out of the way. Not that I, I understand people are curious, but it can also be a little bit hard sometimes to always have to tell your life story. But it's good. It's out there because I have nothing to hide. I grew up in Sweden. When I was 23, I met somebody in Stockholm, Sweden, who is now my husband, partner, life partner. We have 2 daughters. But the story is we met in Sweden in 2003, and there was love, and I moved to the U.S. the year after. We lived in Minneapolis for several years where he was completing his PhD in biology. He moved with me to Sweden for a few years after that. I mean, we got married. There's a long story and there's a short story, but and then
I just want to let you know we do got time.
We do got time. Good. Well,
whatever story you want to tell.
I also want to not tell too much because this is also part of my story of the week or whatever you call it. But
fair enough. Anyways,
I just want to tell you the short version first. And then he got a job at Lawrence University. And so it was the big moment that I'll talk more about later, but for me to like reconcile, well, should I stay or should I go? It was a very hard decision, but we moved to Appleton in 2011. And Brian, my husband, he got a job at Lawrence, like I mentioned. And then I had to be very, very intentional about just building a life here in the Fox Valley, because it was not a choice. It was not my choice. Like, I really want to move to Appleton. Appleton is the place for me. I was in Sweden at the time, and it was hard for me to leave my homeland again for the United States. And so anyways, this is the short version. I have a really good life here. And my connection now is that I work for Extension, which is, the long name is UW-Madison Division of Extension. I work for Outagamie and Winnebago counties as a community development educator. So I'm very blessed to be so enriched with so many awesome relationships. And I focus my work on capacity building with nonprofits, but also a lot of work with entrepreneurs, in particular entrepreneurs of color. And I do some work in farmland conservation and farmland access. I'm kind of all over the place. But I now have a fabulous life here. I have roots here. I have 2 daughters, Ruth and Alice. And I'm a rich person. Like when you're talking about being rich before, it resonates with me. Like, I'm not rich in cash, but rich in relationships and people. So
yes, I can't tell you how many times before I met you, your name was floating in different conversations.
Sure.
Mia is helping.
Zoom meetings.
Mia is helping me with this. Mia is helping. And that was literally, if I heard Mia is helping. And that was always like, and I was like, I need some
this person.
Well, no, I was like, I need some help.
I need help too. Timber, can you help me?
And so I needed to meet you, and I'm glad that our paths did end up crossing.
Great.
And I even think more people, if we can take a moment, I don't think, like when you hear UW Extension, I don't think anybody knows what it is. And understands the impact that it has on multiple programming and initiatives in our counties. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So you say UW Extension, which is what most people will say, because that's the way people refer to Extension for the longest time. We did rebrand pretty much right around the time when I got the job about 5 years ago. So now it's UW-Madison Division of Extension, or just Extension. And I'm just supposed to say this because that is just how it's branded. But I think UW Extension makes the most sense and is the shortest. But the idea really is, so we have a campus, UW-Madison, that obviously does a lot of research and figuring out what are the world's problems, from, science to social studies, etc. But how do you bring that information to life? So eating your slippers now?
Well, no, this is my fight, because what he does is he'll come and eat his bone on my stand, and then you can hear it. Oh, Bosco, the podcast. Bosco. Well, this is his way of being in the episode.
It's good. It's good. It makes me feel very relaxed. So the idea is that Extension is kind of the boots on the ground, if you will, to reach every person in the state. So any of the research information data that is kind of accumulated at the university should be reaching everybody in the state. And that could be, most people that do know about extension may know about the 4-H programs or the agricultural programs, but very few knows about the community development programs that not all counties have, unfortunately, because there has been funding cuts the last decade. But Outagamie, Winnebago counties share me. So community development educators kind of have to find niches because, as you hear in the title, it's a very broad scope. So I focus my work on economic development. I do work within organizational development, which in themselves, of course, could be full-time jobs. But yeah, you have to be very good at saying yes, but also good at saying no, because when I do my work, I want to anchor it in that research, but I also want to be very intentional about building relationships, and that takes time. So making the long story short, it is a well-kept secret. And I think one of Extension's biggest barriers is what you're saying. A lot of people don't know about it. And the people that do know about Extension are mostly white people who may have roots in agriculture or those 4-H programs. And now Extension is more and more intentional about really figuring out, well, how can we partner and how can we make our programs relevant to everyone in the state? And we know our state is changing. And
well, it's changed.
That's what I'm saying. Yes,
it has changed.
Yes, and so I'm centering my work on equity, diversity, and inclusion always, like in whatever way that I work. So
I love that. Yeah, my first interaction with Extension was when UW-Oshkosh was able to assume those other campuses, UW-Fox's campus and UW-Fond du Lac's campus. UW-Fond du Lac had a UW Extension office inside of that building, right? Yep. And so I'll be walking past it and wondering, what
are they doing in there?
Well, yeah, kind of like, who are you? Right?
Yeah.
And just curious about it overall. Because I didn't understand if they were like if they were some part of the UW Oshkosh something, right? Or something else. And then I figured out, okay, this is something totally different because I learned of the association with 4-H and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then I was like even more curious, right? Like, well, I know that this office of individuals isn't just doing 4-H.
Right.
Right. And so that's where I initially learned. But without that, heck, I worked in the UW system and had never heard of Extension.
Yeah. It's puzzling to me. And when you're saying that, it's like, it's complicated. And to be fair, I'm not an Extension historian. There's been a lot of shifts and the way the organizational structure has changed. I wouldn't be able to tell you the whole story.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of people think we're affiliated with a UW Oshkosh or UW, which, we are affiliated with, we're within the UW system. Like we're all in I'm a state, like I have, I'm hired by UW-Madison. So I'm a state employee, you could say. Yet it's complicated. And yes, we're our own thing. We're our own institution.
Right.
Under UW-Madison. So we could go down that path, and I don't know if I should because, again, I don't have all the ins and the outs, and all the changes that's happened the last decade is beyond my understanding. So.
No worries. I think it's just
it is a well-kept secret.
Yeah, and I just think it's good now that Kosh listeners now understand. Okay, that's what's up.
Yep,
it exists.
Yes,
and we now have a contact.
Yes, you do, and I'm there for you.
Fantastic. Okay. You ready to jump into the first segment?
Let's jump.
Okay. First segment is called What in the World is Going On With? This is where you start with the phrase, what in the world, and then share with us what's on your mind.
Okay. What in the world is going on with Trevor Noah? I was wondering that for a long time. I was wondering, what is Trevor Noah doing now after The Daily Show? There you go. he left the Daily Show, and I was like, what's going to happen next? I really like Trevor Noah, and I missed that he was, I missed the Daily Show. And then a podcast popped up on my feed on Spotify. So he started a podcast called What Now? What Now? It's called What Now? The cool thing about this podcast is, well, first of all, it's with Trevor Noah, which is a very good podcaster or interviewer.
He is.
Host.
He's fantastic. You like Trevor Noah?
He's great.
I think he's brilliant in how he approaches things.
Well, and the fact that he can like blend, obviously, comedy, the humor, the comedy with really serious matters.
Right.
I mean, that kind of walking the line, and for him to meet people where they're at in a frank way, but very respectful way. I just admire that kind of the skill set that he has. But anyway, he started this new podcast. There's been, I think, 3 episodes or 4 so far. My favorite so far is with Dwayne Johnson or The Rock. I think you mentioned him at one of the, I don't remember which one of the Kosh episodes, but the fact that they've done polls on the American people on who they would vote for the next president.
Oh, yeah.
And that The Rock would be
up there.
Would be up there for both the Democratic and the Republican Party.
I could see that. If you there was a wrestler who won a governorship.
Yeah.
You said you lived in Minnesota for a while. And I don't know if this was during the time that Jesse Ventura was governor. But Jesse Ventura, the body.
Sure.
Jesse Ventura.
Well, and the American political landscape have a few of these examples, like Ronald Reagan, like these movie stars. Like people are like, why not?
Yes.
I mean, to be frank, like being a president is a little bit being a puppet, right? I think. But if it's a good puppet, or if it's a person who's somewhat in touch with the people, which I'm like, after listening to that episode, I was like, yeah, Dwayne, you're good. And one thing that stood out too, he's got a Barack Obama voice.
So you think he's got that auditor gift?
Yes.
I could see that. Oh,
it kind of struck me.
He's one of my favorite all-time wrestlers.
Okay.
Hands down.
Okay.
Him and the Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock battles were some of the greatest. Because really wrestling, as much as you love what happens in the ring, it's really about their promos. It's when they're talking their smack back and forth. And The Rock is in my top 3 all-time of auditors as far as being able to. Because you're talking to large arenas of people.
Sure.
You're talking to a TV audience. I could easily see how doing that in wrestling could translate into politics.
I could too.
And I'll be perfectly honest. If The Rock ran, I'm voting for The Rock.
All right. It's on air.
And I'm just saying, it is The Rock. And I know he is a smart person, but he's also, because of his background and who he is and culturally who he is, I think he would be very thoughtful in how he approached the American people. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of blown away with his responses in this interview, and it came through that he is a thoughtful person, that he seems like a grounded person, and optimistic. I mean, we should kind of have to be, I think, if you're going to be if you're going to be a president. I think that would be a good quality.
Well, that wasn't our last one. No. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So I was anyway, I would highly recommend that podcast. What's cool about it too, which I've never seen before, I don't know, you're a professional podcaster, Timber, but you can pick if you want to listen to the audio or watch the video.
Oh, okay.
So you could do both or either. So I thought that was cool too.
I'm still stuck on being called a professional podcaster.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie. I have the biggest smile right now.
Reached that level now.
Hey, we're a work in progress. We are always a work in progress.
We're always a work in progress.
This sounds fascinating. I want to go check that out. And now I'm going to have to check out this Trevor Noah podcast. I'm always looking for a new podcast. And in this rock episode, you have me.
Yep.
Like, I need to go check this out.
Yes. Bill Gates.
Oh.
The baby.
Tell me more.
Okay, so Bill Gates was kind of fascinating too. Like I didn't know much about Bill Gates. It wasn't one of those like, wow, you hit me deep kind of thing, but like he is an interesting person. The fact that he is in that space of like obviously being a billionaire and then also wanting to do a lot of good in the world. Kind of holding his own ground.
I think we sleep on Bill Gates.
Pretty much. Yeah.
There's a story I've read somewhere, like, and maybe this tells you a little bit about Bill Gates, like that. And don't quote me. I read this somewhere, and you can't believe everything you read on the internet, but I do believe the source I read it from, and I can't remember if this was true, that Bill Gates was like in Wisconsin at a gas station pumping his own gas, and like there's no security, there's no big this, that, or another. It's just Bill Gates being regular, and he seems like that'd be him.
Yeah,
right. Because
I can see that.
Because hey, I'm not gonna lie. If I thought I saw Bill Gates at a gas station, I'm more like, oh, I think that looks like Bill Gates. Meh.
Right, because he does not look flashy or
right. You're not gonna know.
Big ego kind of person.
He's not rolling. You're not looking at all the money. He's not all. No, man. He probably looks like. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kerry Washington. He interviewed Kerry Washington, but I think it's only been 4 episodes so far. But they're all really good. Okay. They're all really good. I would highly recommend. Besides, of course, tuning into the Kosh.
Well, I appreciate that, but I as well like to be a student whenever possible, so I'm going to go check it out and learn. You know what, though, since you brought this up, and I gotta ask now, as somebody who's, I don't know what the proper term would be, but I'm going to say you're international.
Sure.
Okay. How do you view what's happening here with an outside lens? But like, are we normal?
Are we normal?
Wait. I'm serious on that. Like, it's normal to us because we're in it, right? And so this is just our normal. But I mean, as someone who's from somewhere else and came here as an adult, right? Yep. Not as a child or something where where you've acclimated as a child and then here. How does that, what do our politics look like? Do we look wild or do we look really normal, or are we assuming too much? Because I actually don't think we even as Americans, I think we are privileged. We don't even think how we look to the outside world, but we need allies. Yeah. And I think it's super important. And sometimes I'm thinking, nobody's going to want to play in the sandbox with us if we keep doing that right there.
Right. I mean, I can only speak for being Swedish, growing up in Sweden, and then interacting with my Swedish family and friends. And I think, our former president, Trump, that was a big puzzle for at least the people that I talked to back in Sweden, because not to get too much into politics, but he's just not a person that most people would think was presidential, like material, in the way that he speaks, acts, and the values that he holds. And so that people ask me, they're like, what's going on over there? Like, what? Why? People never thought that he would actually become like a president, which I know a lot of people here didn't think either in the beginning.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think he thought. I think he surprised himself.
Well, yeah. Well, who knows what's going on in the head of him? But that was a big puzzle for Swedes that I spoke to, because I think it comes down to just like, even if you have disagreements on whichever side of the spectrum you're on, right, you still want a candidate that is able to see both sides and to use respectful language and have a past of, being a person of honor, like maybe not done certain things that are illegal potentially. I mean, so like, I guess what I'm saying is like, you would at least have some foundational expectations of a candidate. And it was a big surprise and worry, I think, for a lot of people, because that kind of leadership to me is pretty dangerous. The fact that he was so openly, to me, racist, sexist, anti-immigration, those kind of sentiments, I felt had huge ripple effects on actions that people took out in the world. And so, yeah, I mean, just going there, because that's the first thing that popped in my mind when you're asking, are we normal? Well, first of all, who is normal? But
yeah, what is normal?
Right. But I would say, when I grew up, I always thought of the United States as the place that has everything, like all the extremes, which is kind of fascinating in one way. Like I always thought you could find anything in the like you could find a club for I love bananas, or like whatever. Like you will find it. Like, you will find it in the US. Like, and that's really cool. But it's also, on the other hand, there's some things that is concerning with how polarized this country has become. Maybe a little bit because of that, because there's some fractions in the society that are not healthy and not looking out for one another in a way that democracy should. So yeah.
I just think there's I guess the part about it I don't like, and I I'm not gonna lie, I consume a lot of politics. I'm fascinated by it, and fascinated more by the people aspect of it, the social aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But the part that gets me is, at the end of the day, somewhere we've lost the part that we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand different views.
Sure.
And I can understand seeing things different ways and wanting to do things different ways, but we've started to dehumanize each other in the politics, and that's the part that's scary to me. Like, I don't have to agree with you. And I can learn from you still, because your way may have things that I don't understand, and there's probably good outcomes that can happen from another way. And I'm willing to check it out, but I don't want to be viewed as less than because we may not see things the same way.
Yeah. That
there is scary to me, that we've gotten to a point where the push is to see the others as less than human.
Yeah.
Like, they're just this scary, villainistic things from comic books, kind of like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And not to like put Trevor Noah on a pedestal, but really that's his big pitch, is to confront that. Yeah. I think he doesn't want that echo chamber of like just, preaching to the choir. He wants to ask the hard questions, but do it with human dignity. And yeah, I do think that's missing in a lot of conversations and in a lot of, media channels, you name it, social media, like on the street, talking to neighbors, like it's happening. I feel like on all the levels, it's very easy to start thinking about the other in a way that is not a human.
Yeah.
And that is dangerous on all the levels. It just keeps us disconnected from each other. And I did all that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So.
Were we still on there? What is.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That is interesting. How we just like went down a path. That's what you warned me about.
Wait, welcome to the Kosh. We do this. All right. My what in the world is going on with is what in the world is going on with Sturgeon Spirits chocolate vodka.
Bruh.
Gosh, listeners, let me just tell you about this. And here's the thing. I don't know. I might have mentioned this before in another episode, but if I didn't. So I was hanging out the other day with John from Koya Moore, Kosh alumni, and check out that episode. And so we're hanging out, and I'm taking him to a couple of joints, and so we stopped by Sturgeon Spirits, and I'm like, all right, let's go to Sturgeon Spirits. Let me show you that, because John doesn't live here in the Kosh. He lives in the region, but he doesn't live in the Kosh.
Okay.
And so we go there, and it is taste testing night, prepping for their menu, their themed menu for December.
Okay.
Which is chocolate.
Thank you. Yes,
and
please.
There is literally, we walk in, we sit down. I'm looking at these cups, these glasses that are sitting there on the bar. They're like about half full and 3/4 full. And so I'm that dude. I gotta ask, hey, well, what is going on here? And they're like, oh, we're sampling, we're taste testing out the drinks for December. Oh.
Sign me
Oh, these are all chocolatey drinks. Yes, made with our chocolate liqueur. Oh.
Okay.
Well, sign me up, right? So, me and John, we sit down, and the cool thing about Sturgeon Spirits, big shout out to Carl and his Sturgeon Spirits team, the two people that get behind the bar and make the magic happen. They have these like little mini shot glasses, like they're just enough to get a nice little taste on your tongue, right? They're not a full shot. So lay them out, and we go down the line. And all I kept thinking while I was tasting this exquisite alcoholic yumminess is, this is dangerous and this is wrong. It shouldn't be that yummy. It should not be this tasty. It should not have alcohol because it's too yummy and tasty.
So they know what they're doing.
Oh, my. Oh, my. And wait, here's the thing. I'm not a huge chocolate person.
Oh, okay.
That's not even my jam. White chocolate's actually my jam.
Okay.
Right? But you're doing it well.
Okay.
When the person who
even like the chocolate flavored liquor.
Yes. And that's all, and here's the other thing. And part of the reason why it's so good is because it is made with uses chocolate from here in Oshkosh.
Wow.
Which means everything about it is local. So it's made there, used by chocolate made here in the Kosh. And I promise you, if you even have an inkling of a love of chocolate.
I do love chocolate.
You do?
Yes.
You need one of these bottles.
Okay, need or want.
That's
what my daughters would say.
You need or want?
Is it a need or a want, Timber?
Well, it's a need. I'm
very intrigued.
Wait, you've raised some good daughters if they're asking that question.
Well, they learned this in daycare.
Oh, needs and wants?
It was like needs and wants, and then body bubble. Those are the two big takeaways from daycare.
Okay. Like, these daycares are getting advanced.
Yes.
No. That makes me think of that book, Everything You Need to Learn. You learn when in kindergarten. They're really taking that seriously.
They do.
So, well, I'm just going to say, Kosh listeners, if you are about that life, and if you don't know this, now that we are in the month of December, I would suggest you shashayan down to Sturgeon Spirits and trying one of these chocolatey yumminess cocktails.
Do they sell them in like smaller sizes?
Yes.
Oh, good. Because
I don't
want to commit to like a whole big bottle. You know what I mean?
Well, no. Because you could just have a cocktail.
Oh, you're saying, okay, so, but what about a take home kind of?
They do. They've got
do.
2 sizes.
Good. Okay.
So there's 2 sizes. And I'm going to tell you how good it is. So when I went out, big shout out to John again. Me and John went out, right? And they haven't had this, right? So there was 2. They had 2 on the shelf. And it was one of those small bottles that they sell at Sturgeon Spirits. And I was like, my eyes got big. And I was like, oh, my God, they actually have one ready, because I didn't think they were going to have it. They told us it was going to be ready as of December 1st. This was a little prior to December 1st. So I see the bottle, and I was like, snag it, right? Put it on the counter. It's my bottle. No one else can have it now. It's going home with me. Take the bottle home. Now, right now in my house, it's crazy season because my wife works at UPS, and this is the time where she's going into work at times that would make most of us clutch our pearls, right?
She might need that chocolate.
Well,
like her.
Wait, so I take it and I just write a little love message to her on it, on a Post-it note, and I leave it there and I leave it on the table, right? Because right now we kind of like,
of each other.
Right, we're like ships and we're passing ships often during this, right? So I know she's gonna be up at like midnight, 1 a.m., and see it on the table with the Post-it note, right? So left her a nice little love message with it, put it on the table, and so when I came home from work, she was like, oh my God, how did you get that? I got so much. I got big hubby points.
Oh, so are you giving a little tip to
I might be
people out there that have partners who may need a little extra?
I might be helping the fraternity of hubbies out right now. We get in trouble all the time, fellas.
Okay, so that's a love proof gift.
I'm just saying, you will win big with this gift. So I'm helping out. If you don't know, I want to give
a shout out too. So part of my work with entrepreneurs and on the entrepreneurial ecosystem, as we say it in the fancy economic development world, is to put on a fast pitch competition every year. We just had one 2 weeks ago, and we had a regional, actually a few days ago in Green Bay. So it's business owners pitching their businesses to a panel of judges, and then 2 will go off to the bigger final for the New North region. And Sturgeon Spirits were pitching, I think a couple of years ago, and they did really well. So I'm really happy to hear that they're out there.
Oh yeah, they're out there.
They're running a business. It sounds very successful. So
they're out there.
That's awesome.
They're killing the game. All right. So once again, this is just I like how you put it. This just might be not only my what in the world is going on with, because of the fact that it is crazy yummy and scary because it's so crazy yummy and is a libation. Now I'm starting to think about it like this is one of those, what do they call it? A hack. This is a husband hack. If you don't know what to get the wife, go get her this.
What about the other way around, though? I mean, I think hubbies would like this, too.
Yeah.
Or just anyone, right?
Look,
I mean, it sounds like a go-to gift in general for anybody who drinks alcohol.
I'm with that, but here's the thing. I think the wives of the world kind of know what to get the hubbies, and we don't always know what to get the wives. That's just me. And I know I'm being really generalistic and maybe a little sexist even, but I'm just going to put it out there that, there sometimes it just is what it is.
It just sounds like a very... It sounds like a very good gift for, the fact that it tastes good and hopefully will make you feel good. And then the chocolate has some romance flair over it.
It does.
Just the fact that it's chocolate. So I think you're hitting a lot of the points there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Next segment. The next segment is called 21 Questions. Not that there's 21 questions, but...
I was confused by that because I was like, it's not 21. It's maybe the Swede in me just don't know these things.
No. I mean, that's totally it. But it just seemed for a segment, it just seemed like a great thing.
It sounds good.
Right? Well, here's the thing. Even though there's not 21 questions, because of I think the depth of these questions, there might be 21 answers.
True.
These aren't easy, right?
No, they're not. You're digging deep fast.
Oh, I
like it though. That's how I roll. I don't like to do the small talk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, the Kosh listeners want to know. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to jump in?
I'm jumping.
Okay. First question. Mia, what are you grateful for?
So there's so many things I'm grateful for, and it is for me a daily practice to remember what I'm grateful for because it's easy to take things for granted. I will say first that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful for that, especially when reading news, knowing about the world. A lot of people don't have a roof over their head. It pains me to think about, having that life circumstance where you're living in insecurity and war or conflict. Under that roof is my family, my immediate family, Brian, Alice, Ruth, who I love. And I'm just really grateful to them because I feel like they are my ship. Like that's my anchor in life. Our little neighborhood that we live in, we have this really cute little neighborhood that I'm just really grateful to be part of because my kids get to have a childhood where they actually talk to the neighbors and have friends on the street, and we have some traditions together. And I'm like, where does that happen in the world? Like, I honestly think that's a very unique thing these days. So that is my short answer to that. What about you? Or are you supposed to answer this, by the way?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, you're not. You're like, wait, I didn't prepare for this.
Well, what I'm going to say is I'm grateful to be here. And
that's a good one.
Yeah. And
I'm grateful too.
Just every day. Every day I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for opportunities offered to me. I'm grateful that this community is very kind to me. Yeah. Very, very kind to me. I can't stress that enough. And I am grateful to be loved. Because I can't stress that enough. My daughter and my wife, they go hard for me. They're my biggest supporter. So, what motivates you?
What came to mind on that question is justice. It feels like justice has always motivated me since I was a kid. When I see injustice, I want to step in and do something. And this came out sometimes in the wrong ways when I was a kid and probably still now because, we all make mistakes. We all aren't always tactful, but I have a very strong sense of justice. And like when I was a kid, for example, and I could see my older sister actually sometimes being teased by her friends or I would be like, I would step in and like tell them it's not okay. And anyways, so, and I don't know if you always appreciated that, but there was some weird dynamics like that I was very sensitive to as a kid and still am. And so when I sense stuff like that, I'm gravitating and like, how can I play a part? One good example of justice work that I've started to be doing it within my work is be part of the Entrepreneurs and Training Partnership that Extension is doing with Defy Ventures, which is a national nonprofit. So Wisconsin is the newest state. I think they have 8 states involved with Defy Ventures at this time. And it is a program that works with incarcerated people or formerly incarcerated people. And it's an amazing program because it looks at the whole person. It works with the whole person to do self-improvement, set goals, practice job skills, so write resumes, etc., but also to come up with a business idea. So the person will work with mentors in the program, like with volunteers. Like I volunteered yesterday actually at the Red Granite Correctional Institute a whole day with other volunteers and several incarcerated individuals. And I just helped them with their pitches, like their business pitches or business ideas, but also their resumes, but also a lot of like soul work, Like, look at yourself, look at ourselves, and not just them, us too. So there was, for example, one exercise that moved me deeply. And if anybody who's done any work within equity, diversity, and inclusion has maybe done this type of exercise where you stand on the line with the people in the room.
Yes.
And you step forward and you step back, depending on what's being said. And so questions were asked like, I grew up in a one-parent household, or I witnessed violence on a daily basis, or I grew up in a neighborhood where I heard gunshots, or XYZ, you name it, or I witnessed mental illness as a child, or and it was just the energy in the room was powerful. It was so well facilitated, and everybody in the room, including the volunteers, the people coming from the outside, working with these, we call them EITs, so we don't say inmates or incarcerated. We refer to them as entrepreneurs in training. Everybody were participating fully, and I read a lot of data. I read a lot of statistics because that's what we do when we're trying to ground our work in research. But this came to life in this moment. So the predominantly background of the EITs were black males. Well, they were all males, but the fact that a lot of them would step forward on the statements that were the harshest, just like, it was just very impactful. And there were tears on both sides, volunteers and also EITs. And I was like, oh, I've done this before. It's not going to move me that much. Well, it did. I had tears too. And just going to myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to step up for this one. Yeah, I have mental health illness in my family. I witnessed this. I have, just like confronting that. And what it did too was it just showed, yes, on one hand, there are also systemic issues here. So it's not just, it just came to life. The fact, I just had to write down some statistic that 1 in 81 Black adults nationally is imprisoned. 1 in 36 Black adults are imprisoned. There's a huge, huge disparity, and I'm sure it's no news to you, but there's a huge disparity in how many incarcerated Black adults are imprisoned, and that this is a systemic thing, and it was so up in your face when you're in a room like yesterday. But I just felt this deep connection to the humanity when we're talking about humanity, and that we all should be on the same team, and that happened in that room. And I'm not trying to romanticize the situation either of like, right. Oh, now I'm coming in there, the white savior, like now I'm gonna help these people. No, there was something deeper. And it's hard to even put a word on it, but it impacted me very deeply. And I feel like when you're saying love too, I'm like, there was love in that room. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, kumbaya, let's hold hands. No, there was just a very deep human connection. And I just think that transformation work and change work has to be rooted in a place like that for things to actually take place. And I saw seeds happen yesterday. I saw hope, and people were, there were testimonials. After we had done all the exercises, there were so many very deep testimonials from both the volunteers and the EITs about how much this had changed, their level of like hope, honestly. The other fact that I wanted to say too on this note is, so this is the Swede in me. I don't know how to say this word.
Recidivism.
Recidivism. I'm going to have to practice that one. Recidivism rates. So that means, recidivism means, you go out, you get out of jail, you come back to jail. So that loop, that vicious cycle of
Recidivism. Yeah.
So the rates for that nationally is, I think, 1 in 40 people. So that's pretty high, I guess. In Wisconsin, it's actually 1 in 20, which is surprisingly strange to me. But I don't know why it's so much lower. But with people that has gone through the EIT program, the Entrepreneurs in Training program, it's 1 in 7. So those numbers are pretty powerful. So it's not just that emotional. There's actually outcomes and outputs that speak for themselves. So I just want to throw that out there. And I'm going to have to put that in one of the links too, Timber, after the fact with the podcast. I want people to check this out. If you know anybody who is incarcerated or has been incarcerated, there is this opportunity to participate in this program with Extension, and it's a really amazing program. So
okay.
Anyway,
No,
that was a long answer.
There is no such thing on the Kosh. There's only the answer.
The answer.
I'm glad. I want to learn more about this because that is a demographic that I do get to work with and want to be helpful with as much as possible. I think we all make mistakes. We all deserve opportunity after.
Yep. And that's how they ground.
If we're ready for it, if we're ready to receive it, things should be in place to help people move forward. I don't want to leave anybody behind that doesn't want to be left behind.
Right.
Okay. What grounds you?
There's a lot of things that grounds me. So first of all, connection. I notice that when I feel connection to other people, it helps me ground me in who I am. I'm just like, that's who I am. That's right. Like, because sometimes I can feel lost and like, what am I doing? I'm feeling scattered. I do need time for introspection to be grounded. So I do a lot of walks by myself. I do yoga. I think the body-mind connection is huge. I'm a lot more body aware now than I have been in the past because I think there's a lot to be said about being present, and that takes body awareness as well as like mental awareness. So try to be mindful, but yeah, it's busy. Life is busy, and grounding is not always happening for me, but I do try to do it every day in one way or another.
What does success look like to you?
So when I know I had a positive impact on somebody else or on a situation, then I feel like that's success. It's not always easy to know. Obviously, you don't always know how things land in other people, but when I see those ripple effects, whether it be like, in my job, like for example, helping to build a nonprofit. So the ColorBold Business Association, shout out to you, Kimyata, Ramona, and all the people there that you interviewed on the
they were on Appleton Engaged.
Yeah.
Fantastic episode.
Yeah. So like when I see like, okay, I did some stuff there. I helped get that organization on their feet. They did a lot. We did a lot. It's absolutely not just me, but I think I played a role. That helps me feel a sense of purpose, and that's success to me because I know that there's a need out there, and then if something happens in response to that need that is appropriate, that's success. Yeah, it's not money, it's not like fame or anything like that. It's more like, oh, I see it. That's success to me.
What irritates you?
So one thing that really irritates me is when people don't respond. And I know I don't do this myself sometimes when things get too busy, but I get really I'm a little bit OCD and have a little bit of anxiety issues. So it's hard for me to let go until I know. I kind of have to have closure. Like, what's the next step? So what are we going to do next? And so in my work, in my personal life, I like to know. I'm a little bit of a planner. So, I've had 2 interactions in the last few months with 2 gentlemen in totally different situations where the communication is completely inconsistent. Like one week I hear from them and then the other week I don't. And then I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on. I just don't like it. Like it's a hard thing for me. And I know it's a growth zone for me too, to like just be okay with the limbo sometimes, but it also irritates me a lot because I don't operate well under those like circumstances. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here today because I might be one of those people.
No, you've been very communicative, Timber. Like I've appreciated it because, you know, like I've listened to the Kosh so much and I'm like, oh, it's a great podcast. I love what you do here, but I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So like when you asked me to join, I was like, well, how's the communication going to be? Because I always am a bit nervous about that because I have this thing of like, I need to know things. But you were very communicative. So shout out to Timber for communicating.
Well,
because I had to cancel after I got back from Sweden.
Oh, yeah.
And then you rescheduled quickly and it was on the calendar. And that's all I need to know.
Yeah. No, my big thing is like, because this is my hobby, right? Mm-hmm. I have to, like, during the week, I don't always get to respond to responses, and I got to wait. Maybe sometimes I wait till the weekend. So it might be a whole 3, 4, 5 days before I really respond back. Or sometimes I'm waiting to understand something else before I can respond back. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I got to make sure before we schedule certain dates, like that, since I don't necessarily control my personal calendar, my wife does. Sometimes I got to make sure like that something didn't get planned because I'm not good at that. I'm not gonna lie. She is superb at it, and
she's the master planner.
Yeah, she knows what's going on. That's the key.
Yeah, that's me too.
My job is to show up.
Show up, be there.
That's right. What scares you?
Yeah, this one is a biggie. I mean, there's so many things that do scare me. I try to not live in fear. And actually, there was a really amazing moment last week. There was a co-working session with the Appleton Public Library, an extension partner with them, at the Cozzy Corner. Shout out to Cozzy Corner, downtown Appleton. An amazing place, amazing food, amazing people. We had a good conversation there, and a barber and business owner from a very close by establishment, I think it's Murphy's Barbershop or Murphy's.
Yes.
Anyway.
No, it's Murphy's. It's right next. Well, it's around the corner.
Right. He just stepped in and he didn't even know we were having a co-working or like networking session going on, but he just jumped into the conversation. And we had some networking questions on the tables, and he asked me, what scares you? Actually, that exact same question. Or I can't remember. Is that what it was? It was something similar. And I was just saying, well, I am scared of how polarized we are as a country. I think we were talking about how dangerous it can get when we're starting to dehumanize each other, et cetera. Climate change, like those big ones. He's like, well, I don't live in fear. Just, I don't live in fear. What he was saying in the way that my mother-in-law would say it is like your circle of influence. That's where you operate. And you can vote, you can engage, obviously, in local politics and stuff, but there are some things that are beyond your control, but try to focus on the things you can change. And he's like, and he was really adamant that he's not faced by fear. It's felt very true.
He's the Navy vet.
Okay.
And a seasoned.
Okay.
And a really fantastic person.
Yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've actually had the opportunity to do a little work with him. Okay. And I think maybe sometimes you, particularly when you're in the military, like you don't have, like you might learn to like, you don't have time.
Sure. Yeah.
Like fear is something that can save your life, but sometimes you just ain't got time.
Yeah.
And so like, I just think some people have, and he's retired. He's a retired disabled vet. And, you know, just one of those things, like maybe there's things there. I don't know for sure, but just conversations with him, I'm not surprised by his
Yeah.
by that answer.
Yeah, maybe he should be on the Kosh.
Oh, he knows he can come when he's ready. But, I'm not going to lie. He actually does 24-hour hair. It's open 24 hours. So, like, if you make the appointment, if you want to come get your hair done at 3 a.m., he will show up. Yes. So, he's a little busy.
Wow.
Yeah. It's an interesting,
That's an interesting business model.
Most definitely. But I get it. Like, because sometimes some of the hair you're doing, it takes a really, really long time.
Yeah, hours and hours.
So, what recharges your soul?
Oh, I'll get to this later too, but singing. Singing is a good recharge for me. I love singing. And then I already mentioned feeling connected to other people. That does bring me energy. I'm kind of like a hybrid. I'm not introverted. I'm not extroverted. I'm kind of both. So I really do need that connection with other people, but I also need that introspection and solitude. So, yeah. Pretty straightforward.
Sounds like balance.
It's, yeah. Doesn't always happen, but.
All right. How do you define love?
I think love is both a feeling and an action. Like, I was mentioning the word love when I was talking about the EIT program. Like, it's not a romantic kind of love, obviously. It's just that sense of connectedness and care for one another. And it's hard to put a word on kind of feeling, like that sense of warmth. Like it's just that feeling you can have with people in your life, whoever they may be. But then it's also, to me, action, like thinking about what can I learn from this interaction? Did I hurt somebody? Did I harm somebody? How can I learn from their response? And if I receive feedback about something that I did or said, how can I grow from that? Because I'm not afraid of, it's not easy to take harsh feedback, but I also really want to lean into that space because that's the only way I think I can grow as a person. So I think love is one of those things that can grow with that type of honesty and feedback too. So I would say feeling and action.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We are on to the next segment. The next segment is word association. I'm going to say a word and you tell us what comes to mind. All right. And we always start off with the unifying word, the word that bonds us all, the one that brings us together, and that is food. Food.
I do love food. I wrote a big yes on that question when I took little notes before this recording. I have mixed feelings. So, like, this is not an easy one for me. Like, I love food. I love different types of food. I love food from different cultures. Swedish food is actually extremely boring. I became vegetarian when I was 16. So I had to explore because there's not really any Swedish, like, vegetarian food. Like, our food is like meat and potatoes, similar to Wisconsin, if you're going back and like, farmer.
Why did I think exactly that?
You're on target. I mean, it is very, very boring. But in the life stage that I'm in with kids and full-time job and a house and very rich life, but busy life, I often struggle with food, the concept of food, because I have to think about so many palates and they're also kind of boring. Sorry, kids. Like, are they going to eat this? Can I, push the boundaries a little bit? Can I at least take a no thank you bite? How much, I would love to cook less and eat more, because I love food.
That's the best answer I've ever heard.
I'm just being honest. Like, that's the life I have right now. And I have, like, in the past, like, lived in for example, when I was in my 20s, I lived in a collective. It wasn't really a collective. Like, it wasn't a big one. We were just 4 women living together. I had the apartment lease, and they, you know, had their own rooms and stuff. And so we would take turns cooking. And so like, I love the idea of like, why don't we collaborate more? Because we all love food, or most people do, right? We all have to eat, and we know how much connection it can bring to eat together and be together over food. Why aren't we smarter about it? Because it takes so much time. It takes so much time to prep food, clean up, all of those things. So in the back of my head for a long time, I've been thinking about organizing more around food. Like, let's have community meals, have neighborhood meals, take turns. And then, because, yeah, there's a lot of awesomeness around it, but there's a lot of work too. So, yeah.
Greatest quote ever.
Okay.
I want to cook less and eat more. I'm not going to lie. I want to put that on a t-shirt. Ooh, that is such a good quote. Okay, you know why? Because I think that's universal.
That might be true.
Well, except for those people love
yeah,
cooking. I think there's a ton of people.
Yeah.
Ton of people love cooking. But I mean, I felt that when you said it. I was like, And I agree with you about the idea. Look, I would just like to partner. So big shout out to my neighbors across the street, Gwen and Mike. I hate to call them neighbors because really they're our family. So to Gwen and Mike across the street, like, because I would love to like partner, like where one night because there's two of them and there's two of us, right? Yeah. So to cook for four wouldn't be hard.
No.
Right. And so it would give each household a night off here and there. And we could go over there and eat. And we would love to, because Gwen is an amazing cook. And then they can come over here. And I can't promise we would always cook, but whatever we buy, you would like.
There you go. However
Chinese,
it gets to the table, it doesn't matter.
Pizza, you know, I'm just saying. But I've thought of that before where like, why can't we just kind of work that out?
Why aren't we smarter about it? Like, why? I don't know.
And save on resources, right? Because you usually have some leftovers.
There you go.
And even though we're pretty decent about eating leftovers, I'll eat anything.
Me too.
I'm about that life.
But
maybe if you don't have to have them, you're guaranteed to get all the bang for your buck from that meal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's real wisdom in what you're saying. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe we need to create a food initiative where families come together and share meals. Yeah,
I think there's something to it.
Cocktail or beer?
I'll say both, because I love both. I don't like the word lazy, but what is convenient is, like, if I feel like I want to drink something with alcohol, a beer is easier to grab than making a cocktail. But if you're at my house, Timber, I'll say yes to your cocktail. It's not that I say no to it. It's just that I don't feel like I have the time. Again, the same thing with the food. Like, make it for me, please. I'll drink it. I love cocktails. I love mojitos. I'm not a cocktail expert by any means, but like, I love a lot of different types, like old fashions, etc. But again,
cocktails.
I'll try that. Yeah, I'm open-minded. But again, it's the labor.
Oh, I'm with you on that. The labor is where it's at. Okay, that's fair. I'd like that's another really good one, because there's a thing. Yep. But I like mixologists. I like chemists. I like people who like to put together a cocktail and puts together puts it all together, and then you'll see them pull something out, and they'll just like have an eyedropper and drop 2 drops in, and then that changes the whole flavor palette. You should meet my friend
Kathy. Shout out to Kathy. My friend in Appleton, she is like a cocktail witch. She makes martinis.
Yes.
That are so strong. And I'll tell anyone I'm a cheap date. Like, I can drink one drink, whatever it is. I cannot drink. I get a buzz really fast. So, but they're really good. And she's thought through all the ingredients, and she'll tell you the flavor profile and say, Mia, I think you like this one more because you like a little bit more sweet, or whoever else the person is. I think you'll like this one more. And she'll kind of customize them to her guests. Oh. So yeah, she's got skills, and there's science, I feel like, to cocktails more than there is to.
Oh, there is.
I mean, of course there's science to beer. I shouldn't say, because I know the
Ian.
You just had a
Ian,
brewer gas station.
No disrespect,
no
Ian.
disrespect.
Big shout out to you.
But still, it's a little bit more mass produced, right? Than like that one glass.
One glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The customized, version. So, yeah, I like both.
I love that. And now I must meet this magical person named Kathy, who is apparently a libations chemist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she's got skills. Like, if she had it in her, like, she could open up a really cool bar. Yeah, I would go.
Here's the funny thing. I knew it was good by the smile on your face. So that means there was something you reminisced. There's a cocktail you reminisced on. I have good memories,
yeah. See, just like with your wife, like, that is the thing. And I'm not going to say, like, alcohol, like, there's a lot of problems with alcohol. I have alcoholism in my family. I mean, I'm not romanticizing that. But, to be frank, like, I have some good memories drinking that martini or those martinis over a good conversation. Yeah. And there's something too, and just like with your wife, like, oh yeah, that was a good gift, right?
Oh
like,
yeah,
there's
the chocolate
there's
liqueur.
The experience. Yeah, well, exactly. So,
shop local.
So shop local. I'm a big believer in principle. So I'm saying in principle because I feel like, again, at my life stage, I'm not always like walking my talk to the way that I feel like maybe I should in some situations. So like, I'm a big proponent of like local food, shopping local, support small business. I mean, in my work, I support small business. That's the whole idea with building those entrepreneurial ecosystems and all that stuff. But in reality, first of all, I'm not a big shopper. I don't really love shopping. But I do try to be intentional and also be creative about the shop local thing. For example, I have a friend who I know where she goes to get her haircut, and that is Barber of Color. And I'm like, okay, it's her birthday. I can get a gift card, and that's an easy thing to do, and I can send it to her via email. And there we go. I'm supporting local. I didn't necessarily have to go to the store or to the barber shop. I could just, there's a lot of creative ways to support local. And so absolutely. And then I have to say this too, because I'm a big lover of the ColorBold Business Association, and they have a big campaign going on right now called Shop BIPOC, which is Shop Black, Indigenous, People of Color. The whole idea here is obviously to shop local, but also be very intentional about supporting people of color in our community. This is because there are some huge disparities between white and BIPOC-owned businesses in terms of revenue generation, growth projection, etc. And we know there are systemic barriers. We don't have to get into those right now with access to capital, etc. But it's really important to kind of show your support with your money. And so when you go shopping for gifts, think about who are the business owners of color that I love in my community and I want to support. So big shout out, and go to the Facebook page and support ColorBold.
Most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely. And once again, let me just reference, they do have an amazing episode on the Appleton Engaged podcast. Check them out. Learn about that organization and the great work that they're doing between Green Bay and Oshkosh. Yeah, they're actually northeast Wisconsin, so I think even bigger, but I think that is their focal area right now. Like it pretty much Fox Valley to Green Bay. Yeah. All right, we are on to our next segment, and our next segment is called the Kosh Hidden Gems. This is your opportunity to tell us about something you think is a gem. It could be something everybody knows about, but maybe they don't know this particular thing about it, or maybe they don't know about it. Yeah. Kind of like the extension. No. The extension. Yeah. What do you have for us? Well, I thought of this one. There's a lot of hidden gems or places that I enjoy in this area. One that I was like kind of blown away was, well, you were there too at the Northeast Wisconsin or New Dragon Boat Festival. Oh, yeah. Back in September. Shout out to the Dragon Ladies. There we go. Dragon Ladies. You did awesome. I loved that whole day.
I was amazed with the Oshkosh Leach Amphitheater.
Yes.
I just love the venue. I mean, I'm a big water person. I love being by a body of water.
Yes.
And I just thought it was gorgeous. Perfect venue, perfect place.
It was.
Yeah, it just came to life. And I had never been to that specific place in Oshkosh. So I was like, this was here all along? Like,
It's
seriously?
been around for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a couple of blocks away.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
And I just want to give a quick shout out to the city of Oshkosh for helping to facilitate the Dragon Boat race, because I don't think anyone knew how good it was going to come out.
Right.
But I think once it all came together, oh my God, it was
amazing.
Fantastic.
Yes. I can't wait for next year.
Oh yeah. Well, due to the fact that I did get a team together for the Dragon Boat races,
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Did you actually paddle?
Yes.
You did?
Yes. I've
never done that.
Yes, we were the 21 black men who were there, which which says something about we were that team.
Sure.
Yes, we got tons of love
Uh-huh.
and tons of questions.
Okay.
This is my fraternity brothers. Shout out to Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Wow,
Me and my fraternity brothers showed up, and we had a huge learning curve. We almost sunk a boat. But after the first race, we kind of got our bearings together, and then we pulled it together a little bit better. We were improving with each one, but the first one was rough.
Okay.
Okay. But it was a great time.
I didn't even think about the learning curve.
Oh, there's a learning curve.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure, like with like the synchronization of the paddling,
all sorts of stuff. Synchronization, the order of who sits where on the boat because of weight.
True.
Right.
So
when you paddle, right? Like, how do you start and then how do you finish? Like, where do you conserve your power? The way you paddle. So like, it's more than synchronization. It's like, how far do you put your paddle in the water and how you stroke, because like if you start bumping paddles,
that's true.
That's not going to go well.
Not good.
Yeah, it's not going to go good. And figuring out even your cadence, like having the right cadence that matches your team so you can get in sync matters.
Yeah.
And
then you had a person kind of leading in the front.
Well, you had a person from the event,
right?
A professional, who steered the boat in the back, and then you have somebody in the front who is supposed to be the person that sets the pace.
Okay, supposed to. That doesn't always happen, or what?
I think once again there's a learning curve, and that includes the person in the front of the boat because maybe they've never done it before, and in our case, none of us had ever been in a dragon boat before and had never dragon boat raced before.
Well, thanks for sharing, because I was like, let's get extension employees together and let's get a boat. And it turned out to be a big liability, probably because of the reason you just said. You were about to sink the boat. And I had a couple of colleagues who were like, well, I actually don't know how to swim. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of you have to think about this before you just jump in, sign up.
Yes, I'm one of those, and I put my life jacket on and just hoped for the best.
Yep. So I'm like, but next year I'm hoping just like you kind of were doing, organize something on your own, figure out who's in, and sounds like a pretty amazing experience. Although it doesn't sound fun to almost think about. Well,
let's just say it was my momentary fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that can.
No, it was at the end of the day, it ended up being funnier than not. Yeah. Because the person who was steering the boat in the back definitely let us know that he had never sunk a boat in all the times that he had been dragon boat racing as a professional. And he said we were one of two that almost did, and we needed to stop it. And so, so we got our act together. We figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Dragon boat race, great hidden gem. Amphitheater, Leach Amphitheater, great hidden gem.
Yep. They're kind of doubling up there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Dragon ladies.
To the Dragon Ladies. Okay, I think we're going to take a quick commercial break right now.
Did you know there are children in the Fox Valley in need of hearing aids, but their parents struggle to provide them because of lack of insurance or high copays? I am Juliette Sturkens, audiologist and board member of Here in the Fox Cities, and proud that this small local nonprofit organization has helped fund hearing aids for some 30 kids. Your donation would help more children hear. Visit hereinthefoxcities.org to learn more and to see their smiles. Every child deserves to hear.
Okay, we are back. And you know what? Let me just say, once again, I want to put it out there. If there is any organizations out there who are interested in recording a commercial, please feel free to reach out to me. I do free commercials for nonprofits. And if you're a for-profit, let's talk. Let's figure it out. All right. Trust me, I'm not that expensive. I'm not at all.
You're very generous.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Our next segment is called Story Time. This is your, Mia, this is your opportunity to just tell the Kosh listeners a story. It could be about absolutely anything. It's just that I love the power of narrative.
Yeah.
Let's go.
This is tricky, Timber. So my thing with decision making is I want to find the optimal answer, and I'm just going to let go, because like you said, it's an informal conversation. And one thing that came to mind is the story of part of my life when I got braver about singing. And you know how you say some people just sing in the shower, or maybe in the car. Well, that was me transitioning out of the shower and the car and actually singing in front of people. So this was happening during the time when I kind of knew that I was probably going to move back to the U.S. So I think it was 2010. So I lived in Stockholm in Sweden. My partner was there. Brian was there. I was close to my family at the time, and my mom knew that I was probably going to be moving back to the U.S. the year after. And she tried to get as much time with me as possible because, the United States is far away place, big Atlantic Ocean in between. And for some reason, she had stumbled upon this singing circle group that you could sign up for. And the whole idea with the singing circle was it was a facilitated group, so with a leader who would lead you through songs together. So you would just be in a circle together as a group singing songs. You would not look at notes or anything or no words. You just show up, just yourself and sing together. That would be the baseline. That's the whole, because there's a lot of research showing too how extremely therapeutic singing is, especially with other people. Like there are mental health benefits, there are physical benefits, there are memory benefits. So a lot of people came there. Everybody came there for different reasons why they wanted to sing. And so I just loved it. I loved doing it. And then as we got further into the time together, maybe after like 3 months or something, we set goals. And it could be anything from, I want to be able to sing to my grandkid, for a good night song. Or I want to be able to just sing at a birthday party, happy birthday, with other people. Because the thing with singing too is there's a lot of shame around it. You might have heard as a kid, you sing in a false way, or how do you say it in English? Like you can't hold a note. I don't know.
There's a lot of things that people say.
That's true. Maybe I should not replicate that terminology. Anyway, just like bad things, like things that make people shun. It makes people not want to sing. I sang a lot as a kid. I was in a church choir. I was singing at school in a choir, but it was always with other people. but I always knew that it was something that I loved. And I will also attribute most of my singing, learning English actually, and learning how to sing is to just pop music. Like, I don't know if you heard about the band Roxette. It's a Swedish band that kind of got started in the 80s. I loved this band. This band is the band that really taught me English, I would say, because I just knew all their lyrics. I would imitate the words, etc. Anyways, the singing circle, we set different goals. I set the goal that I wanted to sing by myself in front of the group, because it's something that it like really made me nervous, but that I wanted to do, just because I'm like, it felt like a pretty safe space, and I just set that as my first goal. And I did. I sang in front of them, the little group, and I was like, I did it. I sang in front of this group. I don't even remember what it was that I sang, but I didn't die, you know? I didn't die. So that was a big growth. I just felt like something happened, like something kind of clicked. I was like, wow, I love doing this. I love it. And then my next goal, so both my mom and I stuck with the group for like 6 months, and then we signed up for another 6 months. So, and I think my mom, she set a goal to just like, I don't even know what she set a goal, like maybe sing, you know, just learn a song and sing it with some other people. I don't think she had a very like, not as daring as I did, like just wanting to be singing solo in front of people. The next semester, I set a goal to be able to sing in front of an audience. So like external people that we would invite to a final event. So my family would come, friends would come, other people's families and friends would come. And I sang a duet with another person in the circle. Yeah, and that was like, that was crazy too. I was like, wow, I did this and I didn't die.
Bruh.
You know, it's one of those things, like, we know people, I know that people have a lot general anxiety around going up on a stage and speaking.
Right.
That's a big one. Like, a lot of people feel that. But singing, I don't know if it's like, I don't know if people have more anxiety or less. Probably more even.
I think more. I think people are even more critical.
Yes. Because I think people have expectations too, that you need to be at a certain level to actually be worthy of being up there, and all that stuff. And of course, your internal dialogue doesn't help either. But yeah, I was like, you know, it worked. I didn't die. And I even heard people say, I love your singing. Like, and you know, that helps, because it's like, it is a two-way street, because you don't want to be up there and then you hurt people's ears, you know, like.
Oh, facts. Yeah.
That is not a good feeling, right? And so I was like, wow. And so I set the goal, because then we were at the time of me departing Sweden again. This is the second time I was going to move to the U.S. And I set the goal, when I move to the U.S., I'm not just going to stop singing. I'm going to continue this in one way or another. And I started singing. I started singing a lot of karaoke, actually, like just home karaoke, because that's a low-hanging fruit. And then I started singing at the congregation that I started going to, the Fox Valley Unitarian Universalist congregation, because they kind of took me in, and like, you know, I sang a lot of Swedish songs, I sang English songs, and this is a really good space for me to feel. Yes, it definitely nudged my nerves, and like it was not always easy, but it challenged me to like keep going. And so that's where I'm at. And I'm just glad I got out of that singing shower. And because I think a lot of people actually would be happier if they sang more. So
I kind of agree.
yeah.
I think, you know, and I think maybe we all do a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right, in our own ways, like in little private moments, there's a little song that goes, and I find myself always reciting maybe a little Kanye West or Andre 3000 lyrics in my mind, and I might mumble it under my breath in certain moments and stuff. That's me connecting, getting it in.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think singing is, for those who are really good at it, like, to watch a singer, they go to a place. It's also like, I feel like that about people who play instruments, who are really, when they're really into playing instruments, like it's, to me, it's not about being good. It's about like when you're in a zone, and you're feeling whatever it is that you're producing. There is something like authentic and magical about it. Yes. Personal.
Yes. I feel that too. And that is the thing, just like you were asking about love, it's kind of hard to put your finger on, but it is a different zone, dimension, or just energy that happens when you're so in it and you just want to transmit whatever it is that you want to transmit into the space.
What's your favorite thing to sing?
There's some Swedish folk-like songs that I really love singing. And that's the thing about, identity too, and home and all that we're going to dig into a little bit too. Like, it does reconnect me with like where I'm from and the language that I don't speak much here anymore. And it connects me to my daughters because they don't hear Swedish. Besides from me, they don't really hear Swedish. So in the singing, they hear Swedish. And I do love singing lullabies to them. I have like a whole library in my head of just lullabies, softer songs. In general, I am a little bit of a softie. So, give me a ballad, give me like a pop song that has some, like, I like the big feelings. So if I should give you an example, I remember there was one open mic, actually. This was years ago when I first moved to Appleton. I did an open mic and just sang do you know about a lot of the Bob Dylan songs?
Not really.
Okay.
I know one bit Bob Dylan song.
There's some biggies. This one is not a biggie. This is called The Man in the Long Black Coat.
Okay.
Is that really what it's called? Man in the Long Black Coat. Anyways, there's also a version of that one done by Joan Osborne, and she does it better than, sorry, Bob. She does it better than Bob Dylan, I think, and I love her version, and it works really well, just one voice, a cappella. So I sang that one open mic, and it's really good. It's like a story. I like when it's telling a story.
Yes.
And it leads to this like mysterious conclusion or just emotional. And so songs like that, I would say. But also songs that connect me to my past. And I also like to explore new songs. I would love to explore more other types of traditions, cultures. But yeah, I would say the softer, the better.
The softer, the better. Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah, and like a little bit of drama.
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I think the great thing about music is whatever the emotion is that you want to connect with, there's something there for Yeah. So, yes, totally. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for asking.
Now, I love a good story now.
Yeah.
I'm just, okay. Well, it's that time now.
That's the best.
Every single time. It just makes me happy. All right. It is time for the topic of the week. And the topic of the week is picked by our guests 99.9% of the time. And this week is no different. So, Mia, what is our topic?
Well, I felt, when you first asked me about this, and I try to always go kind of with the first thing that pops up in my head because usually that is the right answer, I think. So I was thinking about the theme of home, talking about what does home mean, and that could be a topic. And it has so many layers to it. I feel, because home has, in the word home, well, you may just think about where you live, in your apartment, home, house, wherever it is that you dwell. But then it's so much about the people too. To me, it's a lot about language. There's just so many layers to it. So I thought I'd tell you the story of how I got here and some things I've learned about making a home when you have to leave your home, or you make the choice to leave your home. And I actually wanted to start with that because I also want to kind of put into context that I'm very grateful that I had a choice rather than being forced to leave the home that I came from. I know that there are a lot of people in the world, including in this country, that had to flee because of war, conflict, climate. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people leave their homes, and it can be very painful to have to leave your home and the place that you grew up and where you have memories, good, bad, ugly, all of it. But just, it can be very hard for a person. And the fact that I had a choice, I'm grateful for, but it was an impossible choice. So what I mean by that is, when I knew Brian, my partner, he was going to move to Appleton, Wisconsin, because he got a job at Lawrence. He was not happy in Sweden at the time. He had, not a great experience at the place he was working, and he needed a good experience. He needed a good next step for himself, for his mental health. And that was an opportunity at Lawrence. So I was happy for him, of course. But then I had to say to myself, well, if I move back to the U.S., I cannot be bitter about it. I can't hold a grudge or because, at that time in my life, I was in my early 30s and I was like, oh yeah, we're staying in Sweden. Of course. It makes sense, especially because we're talking about having a family, starting a family. And, I don't know if you know anything about Swedish, the social system there. It's free. You get childcare for free and, you have parental leave.
No, I didn't. Wait, now that you say it, maybe?
Okay. Well, anyways, and I'm not saying that would be the only reason you would, stay there, but it was just kind of I knew we were both trying out living in Sweden. It was a bit of a trial because he'd never lived there, but I just kind of assumed that it was going to be a good experience for him. And it just didn't turn out to be that. And that was a little bit of a grief for me because I was in that mindset of well, that's where our future is going to be, kind of thing. So, I mean, it felt like a choice. I choose Brian or I choose my family. I mean, and that sounds harsh because especially when we're kind of fed these stories of romantic love of well, of course you follow whoever, you're in love. So then, you just follow each other wherever you go. And I'm that's not my experience. It's very hard because when the choice is two continents that far away from each other and there's going to be a loss, whatever you choose, it is not easy. And so that tore me apart for a while. I was soul searching. I was it's not easy. It's not an easy choice. I love Brian. I want to be with him, but I wish that we could all just be in the same place, so I did not feel emotionally ready to uproot and leave my family again because I'd already done that. And but then, and I started writing lists like people do when they're making hard decisions, pros and cons. But I'm at the end of the day, this is the kind of decision you just, I didn't feel like I could make a list. It was never going to be a perfect decision. I just had to live with that. And and then I came to a point where I was I'm deciding to move with Brian, and there's going to be a loss and it's going to be hard, but I cannot get bitter about it because then our life together is not going to be great. And so there was just a lot of mind work or psychological work that I had to do with myself in order to build a life here. And one of the strategies that I have, that I also had the first time I moved to the U.S. In my early 20s to the Twin Cities, was I'm not just doing this. Well, of course, the idea of like moving to Appleton, Wisconsin, I would not have picked that on a map, you know, sorry. I mean, it's a great place, but like, I had to make a home there very intentionally. One of the strategies that I have when I do this, because I've done it twice, and this is now majority of my adult life, is to not put all my eggs in one basket. Like, I'm just going to focus on having an amazing relationship with my partner, or I'm just going to focus on finding a career path, or I'm just going to focus on XYZ, but rather like diversify, because it's very easy when you just put eggs in one basket to then when that doesn't work out, you don't have anything to fall on. So what I did was I was at the end of my degree in urban and regional planning from the Stockholm University that I went to in Sweden. And so I decided to do like an in-depth interview study with people in Appleton when I came for a visit in the spring. Well, I hadn't moved here yet. He was already here, but so I interviewed a bunch of people in the field of community food systems. And so I got to know a lot of people about like in nonprofits, in government, in extension. I learned about extension, actually. I was like, this is a strange, just like you, like, what is this thing? Like, I mean, if you think it's hard to like tell people what extension is here, it's even harder in Sweden because like we don't have extension. Like we have similar things, but anyways, I was like, what are you doing in here? And it was funny because I got to know one of my predecessors. He was like, Mia, you would be perfect for this job. But at the time, you had to have a master's degree to be an educator for extension. Okay. You no longer have to. You only need a bachelor. And I have 2 bachelors. Anyways, so to make a long story short is, if I'm going to build professional relationships in this community, I don't know anybody. Like I just knew Brian. I knew the people that had, tipped Brian about the job. And I was like, I need to build my own relationships, professional, personal, to make this my own. And so that really helped. And I would say because of that, because of those interviews that I did, I then got opportunities with internships and then job paths. I worked for Goodwill for a while. I worked for Outagamie County Planning and Zoning Department. I worked for the East Central Regional Planning Commission. And then it led me to the extension job that I have today. So I'm like, those relationships.
Oh, they're huge.
They're huge. Yes. So the whole thing with home for me, like, is highly like when you are uprooting and when you are building a home somewhere else, you have to be super intentional if you want to build a life that you want, and find your people. That's always what I feel too, is like whatever it is that you do, find your people, the partnerships for your work that are going to, enrich you and do the work that you need to do in your personal life. And I've been really fortunate to have both in this space. So, I feel, again, rich in people in my life. I have so many wonderful people in my life. And also that I have home. I have home here. I have home in Sweden. I have home in Texas. Brian's family's from there. There's other, family members in Arizona, Florida. Not as much there because I haven't visited as much there. But I'm just feeling like I'm feeling fortunate on my good days when I'm not missing Sweden too much. I'm like, I'm so rich. I have all these relationships and places that I feel at home. And so I want to share my story also for another reason, because a lot of times when I meet people for the first time, they want to know my story, which I understand. And I love that people are curious. But just like with microaggressions, when you hear things over and over, and when you have to relive something that may not have only been like roses and, like easy, you have to relive that story. So this was not an easy story for me. There was not an easy journey. And when people ask me where I'm from, when they ask me, oh, I hear your accent, and they start quizzing me about my accent. Oh, are you this? Are you that? I'm like, well, first of all, it kind of makes me feel, to a certain extent, a little bit othered, you know, and it makes me feel obligated to tell my story to a person that I don't know. And again, it's not because I honestly have nothing to hide, but it's that feeling of having to reveal things about your past that you're not always ready to reveal in that moment. Because I might be like shuffling papers or like be in the middle of something. I might be multitasking, and people are like, you know, wanting to hear this. And so I'm saying this because I think I have so much privilege coming from a country with a lot of resources. I'm a white middle-aged woman. I have a lot of privilege, yet, you know, I can only imagine that if I would present in another way and hear these same questions, and also coming from a context where I didn't have a choice, where I had to leave my country, it would be even more painful than sometimes I feel when people do this. So I just wanted to put that out there, because it's not that it's not that I think it's bad that people are curious. I love that people are curious, but I think there's a time and a place. And I think you can kind of ask in a way that opens it up more to the person if they want to share. So that's my spiel. But you have a great life here. So that's that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We're at that part of the show. And that is, it is time for us to start winding down. Kosh listeners, let me just say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and your ears. Thank you for caring enough to listen to another person in our community who's making a difference. It's important to know these people. It's important to know each other. It's important for us not to live in our silos. I cannot stress that enough. I want to just take a moment and say thank you to Mia for sharing, because I don't know if everybody understands, and I hope when you listen to these episodes, like every episode has emotion in it. Every episode has energy in it. Every episode has magic in it. And like it gets real in this space. And it's special. So thank you for that. Once again, we are a work in progress. So, Kosh listeners, if you would like to be on the Kosh, if you would like to let us know how we can be a better show, if you would like to recommend somebody who would be on the Kosh, please don't hesitate and email us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, that is askthekosh@gmail.com. Also, Kosh listeners, we think we have something very special here going on in the Kosh. And what that means is we think we should be in front of more eyes and ears. And how do we do that? It's called analytics. And how do you get better analytics? It's called I need you to hit the subscribe button. And then I also need you to leave us a review. Leave us a review wherever you can. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. And you don't got to say a whole lot. Good, bad, or indifferent. But leave us the review so more people in our community can learn about this, what I'm going to just call this amazing, amazing podcast. Because and I know y'all don't always understand all the connection that's happening from these conversations, but I promise you there's things happening in this community because of these conversations. People who got to meet each other, understand what each other do, and now they're working together in all sorts of contexts. So thank you for helping keeping this alive, but let's get this in front of more people so more magic can happen. All right. Now, it is now the real time of the show. It is shout out time. So Mia, what do you got?
Do you like pushing that button?
Yes, you can't tell.
I can just tell on your smile.
Yeah,
finally.
Yes, it's shout out time. Well, shout out time was my favorite segment forever before story time. Now story time,
I'm a goodie.
Yeah, I can't help myself.
Yeah. Well, I want to shout out to you first, Timber, because I'm really thankful to the Kosh and you for doing this. I listen a lot to the Kosh, because I'm very curious about people like yourself. You're, like you said yourself, curious about how people think, how they are, and who they are in the community. It helps tremendously with relationship building, which I think a lot of us in the space of any kind of community work needs, right? We need those relationships. We need to know who to talk to for whichever reason. And I've learned so much about people in our community because of the Kosh. So even if I don't know them in person, I'm like, well, I know them a little bit because of the Kosh. And then I also know, okay, I should actually ask that person or connect with them about that particular thing, or just generally wisdom. Like I learn a lot of wisdom from people on this podcast in our community, which is cool. Because yeah, as much as I love Trevor Noah and like the big people up there, but like, no, it's the little people that matters too. And that's how we make change happen here. And you talk to a lot of movers and shakers. So I can't even start thanking you and the people that has been on the podcast enough. I have some real gems of the past participants that there's a long list in my head, but you know who you are, hopefully. And then also, I definitely want to shout out to my family. I already mentioned them, but they're definitely my rock in the world. And my family in Sweden, too. If they listen in at some point, that would be really cool if y'all are listening in. All my family, my dad, my mom, my sisters, my friends. I love you all. And, without their support, I wouldn't be this happy in life, even though I'm so far apart from them. So, what about you?
Wait a minute. I feel like the Kosh is about to get some international listeners.
There you go. It will. Yes.
I'm pretty excited about that. Well, here's the funny thing. We actually do. There's some people in Germany who listen to us all the time.
Really?
Yes.
Do you know how they heard of it?
Well, here's my thought process. I have good veteran connections.
Okay.
And I think, there's through some of that, where they're stationed everywhere. And I think people are listening in all sorts of kind of ways from all different corners. But as much as we are local, our listenership is not local. We actually have people listening from about 11 countries.
Wow.
So, yeah, it surprises me all the time because I'm just like, okay. I'm not sure if I'm worthy, but I try to be.
You totally are.
Okay. So, my shout outs this week. First and foremost, let me send a shout out to Roxanne and Reggie over at Area 509 in Appleton. It's the Caribbean place. You done had it. They've been in the Oshkosh Farmers Market with their food truck. They are now, normally they actually have a restaurant called Area 509, and I've never gotten a chance to go there because they're not open during lunch, right? But now, because of food truck, we're kind of out of food truck season, maybe. I'm just making assumptions. I don't really know. But nonetheless, they're there during lunch now. So I got to slide through lunch, and I promised I'd come through, slide through, bring some people from my job to come eat. Let me just tell you this. It was fire. Like, I loved it. Oh, my God. It was so, so good. So, if you are in the Appleton region and you want a nice place, definitely Area 509. The food was amazing. Big shout out to Roxanne and Reggie. I want to send a shout out to Brian Carter and his podcast, BC Corner. He's a student Well, he is a friend. First and foremost, he is a friend, but he is a former student at UW-Oshkosh. He's somebody I had actually recruited to go to UW-Oshkosh, and he professionally is just exploded. But he has this amazing podcast that I got an opportunity to be on. He asked me, and I was like, okay. And I was honored. And his podcast, because he does tons of research. He goes about his podcast totally different, and he goes really in depth, and he picks these really good topics and really does research. So I got to be on there, and I am honored. I am proud, and I think the way that the episode came out is fire. And I don't normally say that because I'm like everybody else. Let me tell you, the number one thing people say when they want to be on, when they come to the podcast is, I didn't really listen to my own episode because I don't like to hear my own voice. And I am really no different than anyone else in a lot of those ways. But in this case, the way he produced it and the things we talked about were so relevant. I just have to give him all the flowers for who he's become as a person and as a professional, but to produce a podcast at this level, podcaster to podcaster, I have mad respect for what you're doing. Cool. Want to send a shout out to my man John from Koya Moore. We went out, kicked it a little bit, had some drinks, and he's just a great gentleman. Once again, for you introverts out there, if you can't figure out how to meet each other, check out that Koya Moore app. No ifs, ands, or buts. Big shout out to my man Carl over at Sturgeon Spirits. I keep mentioning them. You know why? Because they keep making me yummy drinks. That's all I got to say about that. All right, because Sturgeon Spirits, they're amazing. I'm about to have my 50th birthday party there. It is about to be a blast. Big shout out to Diablo's Taco Truck, who's also going to be at Timber's 50th birthday party. Wow. So, you know what I just said? There's
It'll
cocktail.
Be a good party, I think.
Oh, it doesn't have a choice but to be.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because there's custom cocktails with tacos.
Right. How could you go wrong? I mean,
try to say that without smiling.
I see. And then I even saw a dance move coming on.
Yes. It is it's gonna be a fire celebration. Want to send a shout out to Chuck and Kay the barber. I screwed up an appointment yesterday, and yet they held me down, and I showed up late, and they didn't hold it against me because they are good friends and consummate professionals. So thank you for your grace, but more importantly, just thank you for being pillars in the community. I appreciate y'all, and I learn a lot from each of you. And then last but definitely not least, want to send a crazy shout out to my wife and my daughter, who are doing putting in a lot of love and care and trying to throw this old man a 50th birthday party. My wife is my rock. She holds me down. She's just amazing in multiple levels. And my daughter, I can't even talk about my daughter without smiling.
I can see that.
That's all I can say, because she is mini me.
Oh.
And she's daddy's girl, and daddy loves her. Period.
That's wonderful.
All right. So there's one thing left to do in this episode, and that is you've got the 3 multiple choice options, and the 3 multiple choice options are: A, leave these Kosh listeners with some parting words of wisdom. Option B, tell us, what would yourself today tell your 13-year-old self? Or option C, you can do both.
Yeah. Well, so I feel like it has to kind of be a both for me. Yeah, because the whole thing with the 13-year-old self, like, that was a hard time in life. I did not like being a teenager. It was not my prime time. I always felt older inside than I was presenting to the world. So I think that's one thing that I would want to say to myself is like, Mia, trust your gut. You know, like, it's not that I would know the answers to everything, but I think I had a pretty good idea of things as a young person, and that I didn't always trust what I was thinking and feeling. And I wish I did that more. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. What'd you think?
Thank you. I feel really good. I think this went really well, and the nerves that I had to begin with are gone. So thanks, Timber. And Bosco.
The Kosh.